side with milk and honey. You keep me under your wing. Hold me tight and then you bring me peace. Your spirit comforts me. Shining your light so I can see. Heaven. Feels like I'm almost there, no time to stop now. Teach me how to serve you and how to feel. Relieve me from the stress, clouding my judgment, wiping my tears. Take all the baggage I accumulated throughout the years. Many are called, but few chosen. Deliver me a book and it's open. Meditate till I'm calm and I'm hoping. I'm staying on your thoughts when I'm broken. In the ditch like 7 times, cause I was moving blind, but do you still hear me? In the midst of life and time, just keep me alive, Lord, I just need you near me. Lord, please. Keep me from stressing, keep me from iniquity. Show forth your blessings, I hope that I'm in your memory. I got confessions, I pray you keep me from the misery and make good impressions. All I do is think of you, day and night you dwell with me. Zion is where I wanna be. I'm on your right side with milk and honey. You keep me under your wing. Hold me tight and then you bring me peace. Your spirit comforts me. Shining your light so I can see. Oh, please.
Right, they ate that slave food because that was the food we was given fresh off the slave ship, right? And most of it was the crap, even of the cattle. Like they gave us the guts, which we're not supposed to eat the caul of the animal because we take that out during Passover. Also, they gave us pig slop, the worst of the worst. And people eat chitlins today and be loving it, but it's feces all throughout chitlins. That's why when people cook it in their house, and you go over their house, it be smelling like boo-boo for hours, even though they cooked it for hours. Because you can never cook the feces out of the flesh. Especially a pig, because they don't have sweat glands to let out all the toxins out of their body. They're made to hold those things. So we're gonna get into this dietary law. So first, let's go to Colossians 2:16. Huh?
Let me wait for them.
Oh,
all right. Colossians
hold on, let me get
2 and verse 16.
Let me get there. Yep.
All right.
Let me get there. All right, go ahead.
Let no man therefore judge you in meat, or in drink, or in respect of an holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days.
So now we're going to see why the Most High said, let no man judge you in these days. Because our people already knew the law. They knew what was supposed to be eaten during the holy feast. And we're going to get one of the animals that was to be eaten during the holy feast. Let's go to Exodus chapter 12. We're going to see that this is a holy animal that was brought out during the new moon, during the feast, even during sin offerings and stuff of that nature. This is what was eaten. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Verse 5.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 1.
Verse 1. All right. Exodus chapter 12 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months.
So this is the beginning of the month. Go ahead.
It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb.
A lamb. Is lamb lawful to eat? So now go hold that. Go back to Colossians 2 and 16.
Colossians 2 and verse 16. Let no man therefore judge you in meat, or in drink, or in respect of an holy day,
Isn't Passover a holy day? Isn't the lamb represent a representation of Yahweh Shai? But go ahead.
Are of the new moon, are of the Sabbath days.
So these were things that we ate during the new moon feast, the 7-day Sabbaths. Or like Passover is a Sabbath, right? Even though we didn't cook on the 7-day Sabbath, some people would chop their stuff up, prepare it for the next day, and eat it, right? But now let's go back to that Exodus.
Exodus 12 and verse 1. And the Lord spake
No, you
unto...
don't have to start at verse 1. Go back to
This month. All right.
verse 3.
Verse 3. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers.
So every man had to take a lamb according to the house of their fathers. And what else?
A lamb for an house. And if the household to be little for the lamb, let him of his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number, Salakia, of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb.
So your neighbors were Israelites, right? They also had to, if the household was too small and the lamb big, they had to join you in eating it too, right? So everybody was eating something holy. It wasn't nothing that was blemished, right? So we can see we ate holy foods. So let's go somewhere else. Let's go to Genesis right quick. Let's go to the beginning of the book, where the Most High made all the dietary foods for us worthy to eat. And we're going to show you what he didn't make worthy to eat. Because people always say, oh, the law is done away with, right? But is it really? Let's go to Genesis chapter 1. Let's go to, let's start at verse 11.
Genesis 1 and 11. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit, tree yielding fruit after his kind.
So we was able to eat herbs, which some people eat lavender. They eat root, which is, what's that, ginger root.
Ginger.
They eat, the thing that's popular today is turmeric. Everybody eating turmeric. You even got some people that use marijuana as a medicinal use for healing, for arthritis and things of that nature. They even have hemp seed or hemp grass that they would make the clothes out of, hemp clothing. They said that hemp clothing was last way longer than Levi. So look that history up where they banned hemp from being grown so people could sell cotton and not make the money off the hemp. But now it's coming back because everybody into weed, everybody into herbs, right? But go ahead.
Whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. Mm-hmm. And the evening and the morning were the third day.
So he saw that every seed was indeed good. Let's go to let's back that up a little bit. Well, actually, let's go to verse 24. Let's get the animals as well.
Verse 24. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing.
Wait, cattle is all different types of cattle, right? You got lambs, you got goats. Pig is even a cattle, but we're going to show you that that's forbidden to eat, and we're not supposed to eat it. It has a good purpose, just like everything else we're going to show you. Go ahead.
And creeping thing, and the beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so.
Go ahead.
And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good.
God saw that it was good. The Most High saw all the animals that he created was good. Everything has a purpose, which we're going to go into. So let's go there now. Let's go to the dietary law. Because some people, they have Thanksgiving turkey. They have the Thanksgiving ham, right? And they bless these things thinking that the Most High is going to bless them in doing so. But ham is made out of pork, right? Swine, which is called in the scriptures. So let's go to Leviticus. We're going to see what we can eat. Let me get there. Leviticus chapter 11. We're gonna break down these animals. I went too far. Yep, you ready? Go ahead. Start at let's start at verse 1.
Leviticus chapter 11 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth.
So we read in Genesis 1 and 24 that all the cattle that the Most High made, all the beasts are good, right? But we're going to see what's not good for human consumption. Go ahead.
Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is clover-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat.
So we can eat the lamb. It cheweth the cud. It's a grass-fed animal, and it has the parted hoof like this, right? What other animal don't chew the cud and has a parted hoof? A horse. Can't eat horse meat, right?
A giraffe.
Yeah, people be eating horse meat, man. Remember Burger King had that scare saying they putting horse meat in the beef and all that, mixing it in. But go ahead.
Verse 4. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof.
Wait, let me go back to that verse 3. And whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat. So we also can eat cows. That's a lawful animal we can eat. We can eat goat, right? Go ahead.
Verse 4. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel.
So no camel, that's out. Strike one, no camel.
Because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof.
See, he chew the cud. It's a grass-fed animal. He eats the herbs and stuff, but it doesn't have a divided hoof. So the Most High, he made specific animals to be eaten. But what is the camel good for?
Right.
Because he said all the animals he made are good, right? Camel could go 3 days in the desert without water. So he made that. He knew that people was going to be on these safari animals, and they can survive the heat way better than we can. What other animal you know can go 3 days in the hot desert without water, and then walking you around with you on their back? None, right? But he made that camel for a specific reason. That's why he said everything that he made is good, and it has a purpose. Go ahead.
As the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof.
So what's that? People always go hunting during hunting season. Coney is similar to a rabbit. But what family is the rabbit in? Anybody know? Yeah, the rabbit is in the rodent family. That's like a rat or something. It's a filthy animal we're not supposed to eat. You know? So nah, we can't mess with that. But let's go ahead somewhere else. Go ahead.
Because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divided not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. And the swine, though he divided the hoof, and be clover-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud.
So the swine, this is something we all was eating. We was eating pork sausages for breakfast, pork chops, pork ribs, chitlins, right? Making what they call the hog head cheese. Y'all ever had that? Pickled pig feet, all the nasty stuff. But you know what? The only reason we made it a delicacy because that's what we was cursed to eat. That's the only reason we was eating pork. No other reason. But go ahead.
Yet he cheweth not the cud. He is unclean to you.
So that animal was indeed an unclean animal. So I want to get something right quick. Let me backtrack. Because I want to show what the camel was good for. Because some of the animals we ain't even supposed to touch. But I want to backtrack and show what the animal was good for. What the camel was good for. Let's go to Matthew 3 and 4. So you could precept this with the camel in 11 and 4.
Matthew 3 and 4.
Because this animal was good for something.
Matthew 3 and verse 4. In the same, John had his raiment of camel's hairs.
So he had clothing that he made out of camel. Right? So it was good for something. Big old animal walk us through the desert. When it die, we can make clothing out of it. But go ahead.
And a leathered girdle about his loins, and his meat was locusts.
Wait, hold up. His meat was what?
Locusts.
So locusts. Some aspects of insects we can eat. But we're going to go into that too because he said all things are good. But did y'all know the locust is one of the little insects that has a lot of protein in it? You know how they always say, you got these white folks eating roaches and stuff. They say, oh, it's full of protein. But the Most High said that's a detestable thing. But the locust, he said we can eat it. What do locusts eat?
Grass.
They eat grass, they eat trees, they eat plants. And the Most High even showed us how these locusts would be devourers of his. And didn't they do that in the scriptures? They devoured whole lands. All the crops, ate it all up. But locust is good for us to eat. Now let's go back to the Leviticus. Go ahead.
Leviticus 11 and verse 8. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever has fins and scales in the waters, and in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall ye eat.
So also too, I want to get this right quick. I want to show how much of a detestable animal that the pig was. Let's go to 1 Maccabees 4 and 7. Chapter 1, verse 47.
1 Maccabees 1 and 47?
Yep.
1 and 47.
1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 47. Because we were commanded not to eat the swan. And our enemies would try to force these nasty animals upon us.
First Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 47. Set up altars.
Start at verse 41.
Verse 41.
Because let's see how our enemies treated us, knowing that we wasn't supposed to do certain things. But go ahead.
Verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all shall be one people.
Are we supposed to be one people with everybody? Doesn't the scripture tell us to be not unequally yoked with non-believers? Tell us not to make covenant with the heathens, right? Well, go ahead.
And everyone shall leave his laws. To all the heathen agreed according to the commandments of the king.
What was our laws that we read in Leviticus? It taught us about the clean and the unclean, right? But go ahead, read.
Yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols.
So some of our brethren, they sacrificed to idols. They fell in the trap of worshiping these Edomites. Go ahead.
And profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they shall follow the strange laws of the land.
Are we supposed to follow the strange laws of the land today? Is pork a forbidden animal? Because if not, you got some brothers say we're supposed to follow the law. The Most High set them up to be over us, right? But we also can go in the scripture where it says the Most High would set these other people up just to test us, to prove us. But go ahead, read.
Verse 45. And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple.
During the time of the Levitical priesthood, were we to be practicing the law of sacrifice or no? Yes, we were during that time, and that's what this is talking about. King Antiochus, he forbid that we do these things and serve the Most High the way he wanted us to serve him. But go ahead.
And that they shall profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh.
So they knew that this was a detestable thing, something that was an abomination to the Most High. And they wanted us to sacrifice swine flesh on our altars to defile us and to defile our power, the Most High Yahweh. But go ahead.
And unclean beast.
Unclean beast. Don't they do that in the churches today? They have catfish dinner sales. They have pork fried dinner sales. Right? And it's the same thing Esau wanted us to do then. And I'm going to show y'all that in the scriptures. But go ahead.
Verse 48. That they should also leave their children uncircumcised.
So they want us to leave our children uncircumcised. What's the law of circumcision? Who was it for and what was it for? The law of circumcision was a law between us and the Most High. That it was a token of the covenant between us and the Most High. A blood covenant at that. That's why the enemies don't want us to be circumcised. But go ahead.
And make their souls abominable.
Make our souls abominable. The Most High said he's going to destroy those who eat swine's flesh and continue to eat it. And that's a prophecy that we're going to show you that too. But go ahead.
With all manner of uncleanliness and profanation.
They want us to be just like them. And defile our altars, defile our temple, defile the place where the Most High set his name. And we're going to show you that too, because they also wanted the priest to coerce the children, to coerce the people. Because the scripture talks about the people would be just, the officer would be just like their leaders. So if the priests go off, and he's showing an example of him going off, it's okay for everybody else to go off and do the same thing. So let's get that. Let's get 2 Maccabees 6. We're going to show y'all that. It was a detestable thing for our people to eat swine's flesh. And the enemies knew that.
The first verse?
Yep, start at verse 1.
Verse 1.
Because we showing how detestable that pig is to the Most High. And what our people stood to do. But go ahead.
2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 1. Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers.
Don't they compel us today to do the same thing? Who goes to seminary school and learn Esau's ways of the Bible? The African American pastors, the bootleg church. They even fool their own people in doing the same thing. All the Edomite churches doing the same thing. Because they don't mind defiling their people to defile us. to get us to believe the way they taught the Bible is right. So go ahead.
And not to live after the laws of God.
And not to live after the laws of the Most High. What did the Most High say he going to do to his children that don't live according to his law? Hold that. Let's get Amos 9 and 10 right quick. We're going to show you what the Most High said he going to do to his disobedient. Amos chapter 9, verse 10. Go ahead and read that.
1178. Amos 9 and verse 10.
You got it out?
Yep. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword.
They going to live?
Die by the sword.
He said all the sinners of my people are going to die by the sword. That's why they compel us to be wicked as they are. As long as we're in sin, their kingdom is still intact. But the Most High said once we come back to his laws and statutes and commandments, which is in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1 through 8, he said once we come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments, all the curses that was on us, as we become obedient, will be put on our enemies. And you can see that more and more today. Like you go to Hollywood, you go to downtown LA, even here, you see bum Edomites on the street, which you never seen before. You go by LAX. They had it was a street in Inglewood, what was that? La Cienega, by the freeway. Gang of Edomites over there poor, living in tents, as if it was Skid Row. You would think it was Jake's over there, but gang of Edomites, living out these curses. Ain't they the ones going to schools and mass murdering their own people? That's a curse on us through gang violence, but it's happening to them, right? Shooting up churches, shooting up, the synagogue in Hollywood, what was that, Fairfax District. They shot that one up, right? That happened here. But, go ahead.
All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword.
All the sinners of his people are going to die by the sword. Let's go back to the 2nd Maccabees.
2nd Maccabees, chapter 6 and verse 2. And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter.
So they want us to praise other gods in our holy temple, where the Most High put his name. But go ahead.
Olympius. And that in Gorazim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling of the Gentiles, who.
So now let's ride a little bit forward. Let's go to let's go to verse let's see what they did to Eleazar. Let's go to verse 17.
Verse 17. But let this that we have spoken be for a warning to us. And now will we come to the declaring of the matter in few words. Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man and of a well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh.
So they was coercing one of our priests to eat swine's flesh, as I was explaining to you earlier. Now let's see what they did.
But he chosen rather to die gloriously than to live stained with such an abomination.
So he chose rather to die than just be like, you know what, let me eat this meat. It's only pork. I'm going to be all right. He was like, nah, because he knew the bigger issue, the bigger problem. Because had he done it and bowed the people that he led and taught, the Most High was magnificent. The Most High was our power. He would have compelled them to do the same thing. And he would have been a sinner as well. But he chose rather to die than to eat pork. So now y'all see how much of a dietary law that the Most High put in us? To be stand up like, no, what, I ain't going to eat that. But go ahead.
Spit it forth. And it came of his own according to the torment. As he behaved them to come.
Behooved them to come.
Oh, my bad. Salakia. As he behooved them to come that are
behooved them to come that are result to stand out against such things as are not lawful for love of life to be tasted. So he was like, man, this ain't even lawful. What am I going to eat this pork for? I'd rather die than to do that. But go ahead. Verse 21.
Verse 21. But that had the charge of that wicked feast, for the old acquaintance they had with the man, taking him aside, besought him to bring flesh of his own provision.
So they was like, bring something that's lawful for him to eat. Because they wasn't done. They knew if they can get him to eat this swine's flesh, which the Most High forbid, the people would do it too. When you following a wicked leader, you're going to do what that wicked leader does. And they do that in the bootleg church all the time. So hold that. No, go ahead, and then we'll get the other one. Go ahead.
Such as was lawful for him to use.
So they wanted to, you know what, instead of him eating this pork, get something lawful for him to eat. And because they didn't make a distinction between whether this is pork or whether this is something that he can eat, which is lamb, chicken, turkey, a lawful fish, right? Go ahead.
And make as if he did eat of the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king.
So the sacrifice commanded by the king was pork, right? It was swine. So it was like, just make it seem like you eating the swine, but we're going to give you something good to eat. That's lawful for you to eat. Let's see what he did.
That in so doing, he might be delivered from death.
So they was like, we'll spare your life if you just eat this and just to fool your people, but go ahead.
And for the old friendship with them find favor. But he began to consider this discreetly, and as become his age and the excellency of his ancient years, and the honor of his gray head, whereunto he was come, and his most honest education from a child, or rather the holy law.
So his education came from the holy law, which was the dietary law. He already knew it. And he knew he wasn't supposed to lie and eat something that seemed like it was something that was good, but continuing to lie and saying it was pork. But go ahead.
Or rather the holy law made and given by God. Therefore, he answered accordingly and willed them straightways to send him to the grave.
He was like, kill me. I ain't eat no pork. He was ready to die. So how can some people say, God, he all good with us eating pork now? You can't say that, because even Christ, when he came, he never changed the law. He never changed the dietary law. But let's see what he did, because we're going to get that too.
Finish going.
Yeah, go ahead.
For it becometh not our age, said he, in any wise to dissemble, my bad.
Yeah.
The symbol whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being 80 years old and 10, were now gone to a strange religion.
So he was like, I'm not going to lead my people astray. I'm not going to let them think I even went over to a strange religion. I'm not going to let them think I practice eating swine's flesh in my old age. I was a brave man, knowing that he'd rather die than to eat flesh and to fool his people. But go ahead.
And so they, through my hypocrisy, and desire to live a little time and a moment longer.
So he was like, through my hypocrisy, I'm teaching y'all all these years not to eat pork. Now I'm going to eat it just so I can live a little bit longer? He was like, man, to hell with that. I'd rather die and go be with the Most High. But go ahead.
Should be deceived by me.
So
And
see, he didn't want to deceive his people. Do y'all like deceivers? Liars? Don't we call the white man the devil, which is a deceiver? But go ahead.
And I get a stain to my old age.
So he was like, man, I ain't finna get no stain on my name. I'm going to live glorious. I'm going to go out in the blaze of fire. Y'all got to just kill me because I'm not eating no pork. This is how serious it was for the apostles and the prophets and the teachers not to eat pork. But what do they tell you today? Oh, man, go on and eat a little pork. You're going to be all right. But that ain't what the Most High said. So let's finish this portion.
And make it abominable.
Mm-hmm.
For though for this present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men.
So he was like, I'll be delivered from man, but who wouldn't he be delivered from if he ate that pork? Let's see. Go ahead.
Yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty, neither alive.
Didn't we read that? Amos 9 and 10, all the sinners of my people shall die. He said neither alive or what?
Dead.
No, nor dead.
Nor dead.
So he was like, I'm not going to escape it.
Wherefore now, manfully charging this life, I will show myself such an one as my age requireth, and leave a notable example to such as to be young to die willingly.
So he left a good example. Stand up for your rights. Don't eat that pork no matter who tell you to eat it. Don't the Edomites be telling you, oh, pork is the new white meat. Yeah, it's a new abomination from way back when. Ain't nothing new under the sun. These is old tricks. But go ahead.
And courageously for the honorable and the holy laws.
See, that's a courageous act for you just not to eat pork. To live for the holy laws. But go ahead.
And when he said these words, immediately he went to the torment.
Who was tormenting him? Esau, our enemies. They was tormenting him because he didn't want to eat pork and deceive his own people and defile himself. That's a heavy thing, right? Because some of our people, they went willingly and defiled themselves and ate the swine's flesh. But he was like, nah, I'm not going to do it.
They that led him changing the goodwill, they bear him a little before into hatred, because the foresaid preaches proceeded.
Speeches. Before the foresaid speeches proceeded as what?
As they thought from a desperate mind. But when he was ready to die with stripes,
So he was like, I'm going to die with stripes.
he groaned and said, it is manifest unto the Lord that have the holy knowledge, that whereas I might have been delivered from death, I now endure sore pains in the body.
So the torment was coming. He knew it was coming. He's like, I'm going to endure this pain in my body, but I'm not going to eat that flesh. I'm not going to eat that abomination. But go ahead.
By being beaten, but in soul am well content to suffer these things, because I fear him.
He feared the Most High. But go ahead. Let's see what he did.
And thus this man died, leaving his death for an example of a noble courage and a memorial of virtue, not only unto young men, but unto all his nation.
Unto all of Yasha'Allah. That's us, Israel. Not only to the men that stood before him, but before all his nation. That's why this example is still in the Bible. Because if God was like, man, go ahead and eat that pork flesh, it wouldn't be in here. Because everything is in here written for our learning, right? Now let's get another example. We're going to show some young men and a woman who was brave and went through the same example because of Eleazar. Let's get 2 Maccabees chapter 7.
2 Maccabees 7.
Yep. 2 Maccabees chapter 7. We're going to
Verse
start at verse 1.
All right. 2 Maccabees chapter 7 and verse 1. It came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother were taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh.
They was compelled against the law. What is our law? Let's go there right quick. Let's go back to that. Let's go to Leviticus 11 and 7 right quick.
Leviticus 11 and verse 7.
Go ahead.
And the swine, though he divided the hoof, but he, Salakia, and be clover-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud. He is unclean to you.
So he's an unclean animal. And what else?
And his flesh shall ye not eat.
So we ain't supposed to eat swine at all. Anything that got pork products in it, don't eat it, don't touch it, don't do nothing with it. But you could touch a pig because pigs were in the farm. What were they doing there? Eating up all the garbage and all the slop. That's what they good for. A pig will eat another pig. A pig will eat a dead animal. A pig will throw up and eat it. A pig will take a dump and eat it. So if you eating after a pig, of course you're going to get sick. That's why people be getting salmonella poison and everything else. All the other pig diseases that, I can't think of the name of it. It's the one with the worms. But our people get those diseases from eating it. And they get the damnation of the Most High from eating it as well. But so now let's go finish reading that.
Verse 8. Of their flesh shall ye not touch, and their carcass shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you.
Yep, they unclean.
Keep going.
So now let's go back to 2 Maccabees chapter 7.
Verse 1.
So pork, it's a big thing for us not to eat the swine. And our enemies knew this would make us defiled if we ate it. But go ahead.
2 Maccabees chapter 7. And were torment with scourges and whips. Verse 2. But one of them that spake first said.
Start at verse 1 over.
Okay.
Finish, start at 1.
2 Maccabees chapter 7 verse 1. It came to pass also that 7 brethren and their mother were taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh.
So they was compelled to go against the law and eat swine, which is pork today. Go ahead.
And were tormented with scourges and whips. But one of them that spake first said thus, What wouldst thou ask or learn of us?
But he said they was tormented with scourges and whips. How many of y'all can take this torment? If some Edomites came in here and held you down, it's like, I'm going to whoop your A if you don't eat this pork. I'm going to blow your head off if you don't eat this pork. Are y'all going to stand up for the law? Or are y'all going to bow down and eat? Huh? Stand up for the law. That's right. You better stand up. Because Eleazar said, whether I live or I die, I'm not going to escape the punishment of the Most High. But go ahead.
We are ready to die.
We are ready to die. Mind you, these are young men, 7 young men with their mother. They said, we're going to die. But who they get that example from? A righteous priest, Eleazar, their guide, their spiritual guide. Go ahead. But go ahead.
Rather than to transgress the laws of our fathers.
It said, rather than transgress the laws of our father.
Then the king, being in a rage, commanded pans and carbones to be made hot, which forthwith being heated, and commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake.
Let me show y'all what the cauldrons are. Because it's in the scriptures. Let me get that right quick. Let's see. Let's show what they did with these cauldrons. All right, let's
It says a large cooking pot.
yeah.
Often with
Read that.
My definition.
Yep.
A cauldron is a large cooking pot, often with handles.
So it's a large cooking pot. That was like heated up even more. But go ahead.
All right, so let me continue. Verse 4. You want me to read the definition or with the...
No, you just read it. It was a large cooking pot.
All right, cool.
But now let's go back to 2 Maccabees chapter 7.
2 Maccabees chapter 7 verse 4. Which forthwith, being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first, and to cut off the outmost parts of his body, the rest of his brethren and his mother looking on. Now when he was...
Hold up. Let's go back to verse 3 right quick, because I found the scripture I was looking for. Let's go back. Read that verse 3.
Verse 3. Then the king, being enraged, commanded pans and cauldrons to be made hot.
He said cauldrons to be made hot. Let's see what they did with these cauldrons. Let's go to Micah 3 and 3. Micah 3 and verse 3. Because it was nothing new under the sun how they did our people.
Micah 3 and verse 3.
Yep. You got it up?
Hold on. Micah 3 and verse 3.
It's after Hosea.
All right, got it. 1192. 3 and 3.
Yep.
Micah 3 and verse 3. Who also eat the flesh of my people and flay their skin from off them, and they broke their bones and chopped them in pieces.
So they would put us in these pots and eat us. That's why he was like, make them even hotter. They was going to boil these young men. But let's see how these young men reacted to it. Let's go back.
Verse 3. Then the king, being enraged, commanded pans and cauldrons to be made hot, which forthwith, being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first.
He was like, I'm going to cut your tongue out, young man, speaking against me, and you know I want you to eat this pork and defile yourself. But let's see how these young men did.
And to cut off the utmost parts of his body.
We're going to chop your body up. This always been one of Esau's tactics. But go ahead.
The rest of his brethren and his mother looking on. Now when he was thus made, and all his members, he commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire, and to be fried in the pan.
So his whole family was there, looking on. And he was like, I ain't eat no pork. But go ahead, man. Because our people would tell you in a heartbeat, man, we can eat pork, it's cool. Eat it all day. But they was like, nah, the Most High, that ain't law for us to eat. We're going to stand by this law, because you know who else did it? Our forefathers did it, Eleazar. Because I ain't eat no pork, I'm going to leave a good example to my youngins. Don't eat this detestable food that our God, our Creator said don't eat. Go ahead.
And as the vapor of the pan was for a good space dispersed, they exhort one another with the mother to die manfully, saying thus, the Lord God looking unto us, and in truth have comfort in us.
So they was with their mama going through this. They was like, the Most High is our comforter. We ain't eating no pork. Nuh-uh, not at all. Go ahead.
As Moses and his song, which witness to their face, declared, saying, and he shall be comfort and his servants.
Go ahead.
So when the first was dead after this manner, they brought the second to make him a mocking stock.
So The first one would die. He was like, I'm not eating this pork. But go ahead. Because mind you, she had 7 boys. So she had to go through this boy after boy after boy after boy. But go ahead.
And when they had pulled off the skin of his head with the hair, they asked him, will thou eat?
So now this is the second one. They scalped him. With your scalp going, you're going to eat now? Because I know he was in pain. But go ahead.
Before thou be punished throughout every member of thy body? But he answered in his own language and said, no.
He answered in Hebrew and said, I ain't eating that. But go ahead.
Wherefore, he also received the next torment in order, as the former did. And when he was at the last gasp, he said, thy like a fury taketh us out of this present life. But the King of the world shall raise us up.
So he knew from all the teachings that he learned from his forefathers, from the priests of his nation, our nation, I'm going to be raised up again. This death ain't nothing. I could take this. But go ahead, because that's what he was taught. But go ahead.
Wait, hold on. I lost my train of thought. Members, torment.
Verse 8.
Oh, verse 8. But he answered in his own language and said, no. Wherefore he also received the next torment in order, as the former did. And when he was at the last gasp, he said, thy like a fury taketh us out of this present life. But the King of this world shall raise us up, who was dead for his loss unto everlasting life. After him was the third made a mocking stock.
So as you can see, all of these young boys, they was like, we ain't taking it. We ain't eating no pork. So for the sake of time, let's go to verse 20. Let's see how the mother reacted. Because she was with them. She birthed these young boys. And she was like,
Verse 20. But the mother was marvelous above all, and worthy of honorable memory. For when she saw her 7 sons slain within the space of one day.
you know, that had to be an irking thing. All the boys that she birthed, she see them die right before her because they didn't want to eat pork. They didn't want to defile their temple.
She bare it with a good courage because of the hope that she had in the Lord.
The hope that she had in the Most High. I'm not eating this pork.
Yeah, ahead. She exhorted every one of them in her own language, filled with courage, spirits, and stirring up her womanish thoughts with a manly stomach.
So she had to stir up herself like, I'm not going to eat no pork. I've been taught the law. I just seen all 7 of my sons die. What about me? Because I know y'all ain't about to spare me, but I'm not about to eat this pork. I'm going to hold fast to my law. But go ahead.
She said unto them, I cannot tell how ye came into my womb, for I neither gave you breath nor life.
So she knew that the Most High did all these things. But go ahead.
Neither was it I that formed the members of every one of you, but doubtless the Creator of the world,
The Most High. Go ahead.
whom formed the generation of men and found out the beginning of all things, will also of his own mercy give you breath.
Didn't the Son say we're going to be raised up again? So she knew this. But go ahead.
And life again, as ye now regard not your own selves for his law's sake. Now Antiochus,
Antiochus.
oh, my bad. Now Antiochus, thinking himself despised and suspecting it to be a reproachful speech, while the youngest was yet alive, did not only exhort him by words, exhort him by words, but also assured him with oaths that he would make him both a rich and happy man.
So how can the enemy come to the last boy living and say, I'm going to make you a happy and rich man? They killed Eleazar. They just killed all his brothers. So, but go ahead.
If
Let's
he
see what
would
he did.
turn from the laws of his fathers, and that also he would take him for his friend and trust him with affairs. But when the young man would and not in no case hearken unto him, the king called his mother and exhorted her that she would counsel the young man to save his life.
So after you killed my sons, now you going to get me to counsel my other son to live? Nah, it didn't go down like that. Go ahead.
And when he had exhorted her in many words, she promised him that she would console her son,
Counsel
her son. But she bowing herself toward him, laughing, the cruel tyrant to scorn, spake in her country language on this manner, O my son, have pity upon me, that bare thee 9 months in my womb, and gave thee suck 3 years, and nourished thee, and brought thee up unto this age, and endured the troubles of education. I beseech thee, my son, look upon the heaven and the earth, and all that is therein, and consider that God made them of things that were not, and so was mankind made likewise. Fear not this tormentor, but being worthy of thy brethren, take thy death, that I may receive thee again in mercy with thy brethren.
So she laughed at him, was like, I'd rather you die and I see you again in the kingdom, and you live with your brethren. So let's get something else for time's sake, because we got to get back into the law. But y'all see how important it is for us not to eat pork? Our forefathers, they died not to eat pork. Now let's go to the prophecy of the Most High. Say He's going to destroy those that eat pork. Isaiah 65 and verse 4. And then we're going to get on to the rest of the dietary law. Because not only is it important for us not to eat pork, but all the other abominable things that go which the Most High told us that were forbidden to eat. Isaiah
65 in verse 4. Which remain among the graves, the lounge in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh and broth of abominable things, and is in their vessels, which say, stand by thyself, come not near to me, for I am holier than thou. These are a smoke in my nose.
So he's like, this is a smoke in my nostrils. Go ahead.
A fire that burneth all the day. Behold, it is written before me. I will not keep silent, but will recompense into their bosom your iniquities, and in the iniquities of your fathers together, saith the Lord, which have burnt incense unto the mountains, and blasphemed me unto the hills. Therefore will I measure their former work unto their bosom. Thus saith the Lord, as the new wine is found in the cluster.
That's it. Let's go to 66 and 17. That's what I really wanted.
66, 17.
Yeah.
17.
Let's go there.
Isaiah 66 and verse 17. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree.
Let's start at verse 15.
Verse 15. For, behold, the Lord will come with fire and with chariots.
Which we know those chariots are his angels. Go ahead.
Like a whirlwind.
Which you can read that in Zechariah chapter 5, 1 through 5. It shows that he's coming with destroying angels, which is the chariots. Go ahead.
To render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh,
So if you continue to eat this swine flesh, what's going to happen?
and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Lord.
You're going to get put to death. This is an end time prophecy. So we can't continue to eat the abominable things that the Most High said don't eat. And the reason I went there because the Most High, he stresses about this pork. It's unclean, it's unclean. And that's the most thing that's in all of our food, a lot of our foods, a lot of products it's in. So you have to be careful and look at the labels because they change the name of pork so many times. You have to actually go in and be a stewardess over your food, over yourself, over your body. Because it's up to us. So now let's go back to Leviticus 11.
Verse 8.
So y'all see and understand how important it is? The Most High ain't playing with us when it comes to his dietary law. And I showed you in the New Testament what it was talking about, right? He said, let no man judge you in meats and in drinks, because they already knew the law. They knew what to eat on the Sabbaths. But here today, you got some people that don't know what to eat. Or they say you can eat anything, and I want to get that scripture.
Leviticus.
No, hold up. I want to get that other scripture. Let's get it. Let's go to Ezekiel. 22 and verse 26. And then we'll come back to Leviticus.
Twenty-two and 66.
22 and 26.
22, 26. Ezekiel 22 and verse 26. Her priests have violated my law and have profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane. Neither have they showed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths.
Don't they go to church on Sunday? Don't you got wicked men eating pork and all the other abominable and detestable things? Go ahead.
And I am, Salakia, and I am profane among them.
So they profane the name of the Most High. Oh, we do this in the name of Jesus. We do this in the name of the Most High. But he said they put no difference between the clean and the unclean. They be having pork fried dinners on the Sabbath. Fish fried dinners on the Sabbath. And they main fish is not the good fish. They going to get catfish. But let's get into that. Now let's go back to Leviticus 11. Go ahead, read that.
Leviticus 11 and verse 8. Of their flesh shall ye not eat,
So we're not supposed to eat the pork at all. Go ahead.
and their carcass shall ye not touch.
We ain't supposed to touch their carcasses. Go ahead.
They are unclean to you. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever have fins and scales in the waters, and in the seas, and in the rivers,
So if it got fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, go ahead.
them shall ye eat.
Them shall ye eat. But what doesn't have fins and scales? That's in the rivers and in the ocean. You got crabs. You got lobster. You got shrimp. You got crawfish. All these things, these little ugly creatures that people eat. But you got a crab and a roach. No, it's a roach and a lobster look just alike. One just live on water and one live on land. Yeah, a sea insect. And if you ever seen that, what's the National Geographic show when they have how the fish and all that stuff die and they fall to the bottom of the ocean? You got eels, You got crabs. They all go inside the belly and eat it from the inside out to get rid of the bacteria that's in the ocean. Oysters too. They did an oyster test. They took the oysters out of the water and they had a fish tank. One side of the fish tank they had oysters and clams. Other side they had just dirty water with oysters and clams. The oyster, my bad. On one side of the tank they had oysters and clams, clean water. Other side they had dirty water. The dirty water became clean because of oysters and the clams. But that's why the Most High said, don't eat these things. And also, too, I mentioned this in Q&A last week, how you have turtles. The Chinese, they eat up all the turtles. So because they mess up the ecosystem when eating these turtles, they got a jellyfish invasion. Look it up. Go on YouTube. They got thousands of jellyfish they can't get rid of because they messing up the ecosystem that God put together because they're eating the turtles, which eat the jellyfish. And what do jellyfish do to people? They'll sting you and kill you. Yeah, they poison. But they eat turtles. I remember when I was working at LAX, I see all these turtles coming through LAX. Where's these turtles going? To China? And now I knew why. Once I look it up, man, like, it's messed up. But this is what our people do. They eat detestable things that they're not supposed to eat and wonder why they're sick and all that. And why the ecosystem is out of balance, out of whack. So now let's go back to that in Leviticus.
They shall be an abomination unto you. Mm-hmm. Verse 11. They shall be even an abomination unto you. Ye should not eat of their flesh, but ye shall have their carcasses an abomination.
So this is talking about fish without scales, which is swordfish, catfish, and any other fish, crabs, lobsters, shrimp, all things of that nature we are not supposed to eat. They are an abomination. Huh? Swahi, yeah, that's Chinese catfish. Also, too, let me let y'all know a little secret. I was going down to the California Fish Grill. If you order white ruffin, you are getting that Swahi. You getting Chinese catfish. Yeah, because I had to ask one day, like, what fish is this? I was ordering orange ruffy or white ruffy. They going to give you the Swahi. Don't eat that mess. That's why I stopped eating there, man. Like, dang, Esau keep you defiled, boy. But go ahead.
Verse 12. Whatsoever have no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you.
So it's an abomination to us. We ain't supposed to eat it. Oysters and clams, they there to clean the ocean, clean the lakes. We ain't supposed to eat those things, but go ahead.
And these are they which ye shall have an abomination among the fowls. They shall...
Now it's getting into the birds. Go ahead.
They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle.
The eagle is a bird of prey. Go ahead. We ain't supposed to eat that, right? Go ahead.
And the ostrich. And the osprey.
The osprey, go ahead.
And the vulture.
The vulture. Y'all seen the vulture? That's another bird of prey. What else?
And the kite, after his kind. Every raven, after his kind.
A raven. We ain't supposed to eat that. That's also a bird of prey. Go ahead.
And the owl. And the nighthawk.
What do owls eat? They eat rats, mice, and those things carry diseases. If you look at a mice, I mean, if you ever had mice or something in your house, or you seen what mice do and you look it up, they boo-boo and they pee and leave a trail. They leave, what they call that? The smell that they leave, because the ants do the same thing. For other mice to follow in their footsteps or in their trail. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it'll come to me. Go ahead.
And the cawcow, and the hawk after his kind.
So those are all birds of prey that we are not supposed to eat. But go ahead.
And the little owl, and the
cormorant,
and the great owl, and the swan, swine, Salakia, and the pelican, and the gyre eagle, and the stork, and the heron after her kind. And the lapwing and the bat.
The lapwing and the bat. We ain't supposed to eat bats. That's another rodent, but it has wings. Go ahead.
All the fowls that creep, going upon all fours, shall be an abomination unto you. Yet these may ye eat of every flying creeping thing that goeth upon all four, which have legs above their feet, to leap whither upon withal upon the earth. Even these of them ye may eat. The locust after his kind.
Locust. Who ate locusts? Didn't we read that scripture earlier? John the Baptist, he ate locusts and wild honey. The locust, you can eat that. But go ahead.
The locust after his kind, and the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind.
And the grasshopper and the locust is in the same family. Go ahead.
But all other flying creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination unto you.
So you ain't going to eat no moth, right? That little fuzzy looking animal. You ain't eat no butterfly. That's an abomination. But go ahead. A dragonfly, you ain't going to eat that. Some people be scared. Oh, that's ugly. You definitely ain't going to eat no fly. Because it might go down in you and lay some eggs and you have some maggots eating you from the inside out, right? But go ahead.
And for these shall be unclean. Whosoever touches the carcass of them shall be unclean until the evening.
So even if these little animals die, he said you're going to be unclean till the evening. But go ahead.
And whosoever beareth aught of the carcass of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening.
So when you kill them little bugs, it's a law. You unclean when you do that. You know how some of us men be like, oh man, the hell with that bone. We just smash it with our hand. But the Most High said we unclean. This is a law that he made. We got to wash ourselves after we do that, fellas. Because I know I'm guilty of it. You see an ant on a bug, you smacking it with your hand. We unclean when we do that. But go ahead.
The carcass of every beast which divideth the hoof and is not clover-footed, nor cheweth the cud, are unclean unto you.
So everything that's an abomination that we not supposed to eat is unclean to us. Go ahead.
Everyone that toucheth them shall be unclean. And whatsoever goeth upon his paws among all manner of the beasts that go on all four, those are unclean unto you.
Dogs, unclean. Alligator, unclean. Cat, unclean. Who eat cat? Chinese, right? Have y'all ever went to a Chinese store and had that piece of orange chicken and the bones wasn't right? Oh, y'all laughing, but shoot, you probably ate some rat, cat, dog. Yeah. But go ahead.
Whosoever toucheth their carcass shall be unclean until the evening.
So we got to wash ourselves when we touch their carcasses. But go ahead.
And he that beareth the carcass of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. They are unclean unto you. These also shall be unclean unto you among the creeping things that creep upon the earth, the weasel, the mouse.
Weasel. Here we go with that rodent family. Y'all seen a weasel, right? Little slick, sly little thing. Mouse, go ahead.
The mouse, the tortoise.
The tortoise, which I mentioned earlier, right? When the Chinese be eating turtle soup, y'all better not eat no turtle soup. Go ahead.
After his kind. And the ferret and the chameleon.
Chameleon. Who was that? It was a man who recently died from eating a little lizard. He ate a lizard, and 10 days later, he died from salmonella poison. But go ahead.
And the lizard and the snail.
So we ain't supposed to eat no lizard. Who be eating escargot? Y'all seen that movie Transformers when the lady was eating it and it was all green? Like all it is a rotten snail. And she was eating it, she spit it out like, oh, it's nasty. Man, we is not supposed to follow after the ways of Edomites and eating these nasty, detestable things. And escargot ain't cheap. But we can go in the hood and find a gang of snails, right? But go ahead.
And the mole.
A mole. Y'all seen the mole, that little ugly animal that make holes? Nah, go ahead.
These are unclean to you among all that creep. Whosoever doth touch them, when they be dead, shall be unclean until the evening. And upon whatsoever any of them, when they are dead, doth fall, it shall be unclean. Whether it be any vessel of wood, or raiment, or skin, or sack, whatsoever vessel it be, wherein any work is done.
So y'all know that we have wooden pots, clay pots, and when these bugs or these animals will fall, it would defile the wood. Like, you know, that poison or whatever was in them can go into the wood or go into the clay, right? So then back then they had to smash the pots and pans. Now that vessel is unclean. It's unworthy for you to eat and cook in. Well, go ahead.
It must be put unto water, and it shall be unclean unto the evening. So it shall be cleansed. And every earthling vessel whereunto any of them falleth, whatsoever is in it shall be unclean, and ye shall break it.
So he said, break it. Don't even use it no more, because it's unclean. It's unworthy for you to eat out of it right now. So they would have to break their pots if these little bugs or whatnot fell on them. But go ahead.
Of all meat which may be eaten, that on which such water cometh shall be unclean, and all drink that may be drunk, and every such vessel shall be unclean. And everything whereupon any part of their carcass falleth shall be unclean.
So that's why it was law, because these animals, you know, have y'all smashed a bug and it oozed out? Ugh, that's nasty, right? But imagine all this detestable stuff from this bug, because y'all know flies is nasty as hell, right? Whatever they land on all kind of diseases, dead bodies, dead animals, feces. You can get sick from that. And now this is falling on your plate, on your vessels that you ate with, that you created, right? Of wood, of clay, and it defiled it. But go ahead.
Whether it be oven or ranges for pots, they shall be broken down.
So even the ovens, because back then we had the wood burning ovens, the iron stoves that they was making out of clay, right? They had to break that down, build another one. But go ahead.
For they are unclean, and shall be unclean unto you.
Go ahead.
Nevertheless, a fountain of pit, wherein...
So now this is going into the waters, because you know they had wells. They didn't have water spouts like we have today, right? They didn't have pipes coming to your house and leading everything in, right? But go ahead.
Wherein there is plenty of water shall be clean.
So let's say something fell in this cup. Our cup will be defiled. But if it's a well, because there's plenty of water, and you know wells, the water comes from the bottom, right? So the water is constantly being recycled. It's clean. But if it fell in a vessel, man, you got to throw that vessel out and smash it. But go ahead.
Shall be clean. But that which toucheth their carcass shall be unclean. And if any part of their carcass fall upon any sown seed, which is to be sown, it shall be clean. But if any water be put upon the seed, and any part of their carcass fall thereon, it shall be unclean unto you.
So now this is also going, because you know how y'all seen how in the ancient times they would seed harvest, right? So they would prepare these seeds to plant them. And if one of these dead bugs fell on that seed, the Most High was like, that seed is defiled. But go ahead.
Verse 34. And if any beast of which ye may eat die, he that touches the carcass thereof shall be unclean until the evening. And he
that's 39. You said 34. That's 39.
I meant to say 39. That was 39.
Okay.
I read. Yeah. But verse 40. And he that eateth of the carcass of it shall wash his clothes, and be unclean until the evening.
So y'all see how strenuous the Most High God's law was? It was strict, but it was for our health, for our well-being, right? Y'all hear about people going to Africa and coming back with worms in their breasts, with certain diseases because a fly or a bug landed on them, right? That's why they make you get shots and stuff, things of that nature. But go ahead.
He also that beareth the carcass of it shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. And every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth shall be an abomination. It shall not be eaten. Whatsoever goeth upon the belly, and whatsoever goeth upon all four, or whatsoever hath more feet among all creeping things that creep upon the earth.
So what got more feet? What goes on the belly?
Spider.
Spiders got a lot of feet. I mentioned it earlier. Alligators go on their belly, right?
Snake.
Crocodiles go on their belly. Snakes go on their belly. But go ahead. Even a centipede got a lot of feet. These little bugs we ain't supposed to eat. But go ahead.
Them ye shall not eat, for they are an abomination. Ye shall not make yourselves abominable with any creeping thing that creepeth.
So he said, don't make yourself an abominable with these things. This is law, y'all. But go ahead.
Neither shall ye make yourselves unclean with them, that ye shall be defiled thereby.
So he was like, don't defile yourselves. This is my law, and it never changes. I'm going to show y'all that. Go ahead.
For I am the Lord,
He said, I'm the Lord.
that bringeth you out of the land of Egypt.
So he brought us out of Egypt, because I'm sure they was eating all kind of defiled and detestable things. Because y'all see the Egyptians today, right? What do they wash their hair with?
Mud.
Cow piss. Pull up the images. I'm not just saying this to be saying it. They still bathing in cow piss, some of them. Make their hair orange. Right? They eating cow, drinking cow's blood. Having sex with animals, right? That's forbidden for us. But go ahead.
To be your God. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy.
He said, be set apart from all these nations. Because man, I seen this, I can't think of her name, but it was a woman in Hollywood. She said, human meat is one of the best meats you can eat. Man, that's nasty. That's an abomination. Huh? In India? I never heard of them doing it, but I recently heard they're doing it in Hollywood. They call it spirit cooking.
Oh, they eat the human brain.
Human brain.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I forgot.
I don't know. And I know in China, they eat their dead babies as aphrodisiacs. Man, that's an abomination. Human meat was never for consumption. Just as pigs and all these other things was never consumption for us. Even though the Most High said these things were good, it's an abomination. But go ahead.
Verse 46. This is the law of the beast, and of the fowl, and every living creature that moveth in the waters, and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten.
So if you just go to the New Testament, you won't even know this. He said, this is the law. This is what you can and cannot eat. This is what's clean and not clean. This is how you are clean and unclean. Wash yourself, bathe yourself. You kill one of these little bugs, one of these little dead bugs land on you. Now let's go to where this law never changed. Let's go to Matthew 5:17 right quick.
That's my favorite one.
Because Christ never changed the dietary law. Go there. You got it?
Matthew 5 and verse 17. Think not that I'm come to destroy the law.
To change it?
Destroy.
To make it okay for you to eat pork and all the other detestable animals? Go ahead.
Destroy the law.
So he never came to destroy the law. But go ahead.
Or the prophets.
Or the prophets. Everything the prophets taught. He taught it. But go ahead.
I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill.
He said, I ain't come to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. But go ahead.
For verily, I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass,
Has heaven and earth ever passed? It was flooded with water, but there was 8 people that lived still constantly on the earth and brought forth more generations. Shem, Ham, and Japheth brought forth more nations. That's why we still here. The earth was never destroyed. Well, go ahead.
one jot or one tittle
Don't y'all still dot your I's and cross your T's? Yeah, go ahead.
shall in any wise pass from the law,
Say ain't nothing passed from the law. That dietary law that the Most High set forth from the beginning is still in effect. Go ahead.
till all be fulfilled.
Has everything been fulfilled yet? No, it hasn't. Christ ain't came back and killed the enemies of Israel. The Most High ain't came back and fought the enemies of Israel. Our enemies have not built up our kingdom yet, right? The dead in Christ have not been judged yet. But go ahead.
Verse 19, whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments,
Say if you break one of the least commandments, it's a small thing that you smash this bug and you continue in your uncleanness, right? That's a real small thing. That's minuscule, real small. Because what he tell us to do if a dead bug fall on us or we touch it, what he tell us to do?
we're unclean.
He said, wash your body, wash your clothes, because you unclean. That's a least commandment. Christ said ain't none of these done away with. But if you teach men so and do it, I feel sorry for you, because go ahead.
And shall teach man so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
We're going to get that least in the kingdom of heaven. You're not going to make it in. Because he said, all the sinners of my people shall die by the sword. But go ahead.
But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
So if you do and teach the laws, you're going to be called great in the kingdom of heaven because you're going to make it. Now let's go to the last verse, the last chapter, Revelations 22 and verse 15.
Revelations 22 and verse 15. For without are dogs
Those are the other nations that the Most High and Yahweh does not accept. Go ahead.
and sorcerers,
Sorcerers, those who practice witchcraft, divinations, and things of that nature. Go ahead.
and whoremongers,
Whoremongers, those who sleeping around with any and everybody. Prostitutes, not going to make it into the kingdom. Pimps, y'all not going to make it into the kingdom. Go ahead.
and murderers,
Murderers, those who willfully killing for just any old reason. Go ahead.
and idolaters.
Idolaters. Wait.
Idolaters.
Idolaters, those who worship idols. You in the bootleg Christian church, you worshiping the white Jesus, you worshiping the cross, which God forbid that you worship. That's an idol. You worshiping Buddha, you worship Allah, three stones, making your homage to Mecca and all that. Worshiping these meteorites, that's idolatry. But go ahead.
And whosoever loveth and maketh a lie,
He said, if you love and make a lie, you lying on God. Say, oh, you can eat pork, it's okay. That's a lie. God changed the dietary laws. You can eat crawfish. That's a lie. He gave us the clean and unclean law from the beginning. And Christ did not do away with the law. Only thing he did away with was the law of sacrifice as far as coming to animals. Because who's the law of sacrifice now for? Us. Yahweh Shai. Right? But go ahead.
I, Yahweh Shai, have sent my angel to testify unto you.
He said, I sent my angel to tell you these things, my messengers. So when brothers get this word, get this knowledge, this understanding, we going out as the Yahweh Shai messengers. But go ahead.
These things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David,
Yahweh Shai, he said, I'm the root and the offspring of David. Go ahead.
and the bright and morning star. And the Spirit and the bride say, come.
He said, come, y'all. Come to me. Come into my wedding feast. Go ahead.
And let him that heareth say, come. And let him that is athirst come. And whosoever will, let him take the water of life freely.
So he said, take the water of life freely. But let's get one more verse. Let's get verse 14. Because this is the water of life.
Verse 14. Blessed are they that do his commandments.
So if we do his commandments, we're going to be blessed. Keeping the dietary law, we're going to be blessed. But go ahead.
That they may have right to the tree of life.
So we're going to have right to the tree of life, which is the kingdom. Go ahead.
And may enter in through the gates into the city.
So everybody want to make it to that city, right? With that, I say keep the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments. Shalom.
Kwam Yasharallah.
Yep.
When you see them bills and fringes, no, we come to handle business. When you see them bills and fringes, no, we come to handle business. I'll be on the corner with my icon, KJB 1611 like a shotgun.